Question 1. To address the challenge of ensuring the admissibility and integrity of video evidence in a court proceeding, what is the most appropriate approach for a certified broadcast court reporter concerning the selection and use of video recording equipment, lighting, and video editing software? Option A. Employing consumer-grade cameras with automatic settings and using standard lighting, with post-production editing performed using readily available software to enhance clarity. Option B. Utilizing professional-grade cameras that meet or exceed court-specified technical requirements, ensuring consistent and appropriate lighting, and employing video editing software only for non-destructive processes that are meticulously documented. Option C. Prioritizing the use of the most compact and portable recording equipment to facilitate ease of use in various court environments, with minimal concern for specific technical specifications or post-production protocols. Option D. Relying on the most advanced and feature-rich video editing software to ensure the highest visual quality, regardless of the recording equipment or lighting conditions. Correct answer is A. Employing consumer-grade cameras with automatic settings and using standard lighting, with post-production editing performed using readily available software to enhance clarity. Explanation. Scenario analysis. The scenario presents a challenge for a certified broadcast court reporter, CBCR, tasked with ensuring the integrity and admissibility of video evidence in a court proceeding. The core difficulty lies in balancing the technical requirements of capturing high-quality video with the strict legal and ethical obligations to maintain an accurate and unaltered record. This requires a nuanced understanding of how video recording equipment, lighting, and editing software can inadvertently or intentionally compromise evidence, leading to potential legal challenges and undermining the judicial process. The CBCR must act as a gatekeeper, ensuring that the technology employed serves the pursuit of truth rather than obscuring it. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to established court rules and guidelines regarding the recording and preservation of evidence. This involves utilizing camera equipment that meets or exceeds the specifications mandated by the court or relevant judicial body, ensuring consistent and adequate lighting to produce clear images without distortion, and employing video editing software that is demonstrably capable of non-destructive editing or, ideally, is not used for any alteration of the original recording. The primary justification for this approach is its direct alignment with the principles of evidence preservation and authenticity. By following documented procedures and utilizing approved or standard equipment, the CBCR creates a verifiable chain of custody and minimizes the risk of introducing bias or manipulation. This proactive stance ensures that the video evidence is robust against challenges regarding its integrity and is therefore more likely to be admitted and considered by the court. The focus is on creating a faithful representation of the event being recorded, free from any technological artifacts that could be misconstrued or used to question its reliability. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach involves using consumer-grade camera equipment with automatic settings that may not provide consistent frame rates or resolutions required for court proceedings. This failure is regulatory because it may violate specific court rules or judicial orders that dictate the technical standards for video evidence. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence and professionalism in ensuring the highest quality and most reliable recording possible, potentially jeopardizing the case. Another incorrect approach is to use lighting that creates harsh shadows or glare, obscuring important details within the video. This is a regulatory failure as it compromises the clarity and comprehensibility of the evidence, making it difficult for the court to assess its relevance and probative value. Ethically, it shows a disregard for the fundamental purpose of recording evidence, which is to provide a clear and accurate account. A third incorrect approach is to utilize video editing software for any post-production adjustments, such as color correction or trimming, without a clear and documented protocol for how these edits are managed and preserved. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Regulatory, because any alteration, even if seemingly minor, can be grounds for challenging the admissibility of the evidence if the process is not transparent and auditable. Ethically, it introduces a risk of unintentional or intentional manipulation, undermining the principle of evidence integrity and the reporter's duty to present an unbiased record. The use of non-destructive editing is a best practice, but even then, the process must be meticulously documented. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this role must adopt a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of the specific jurisdictional rules and guidelines governing video evidence. This includes consulting court orders, judicial directives, and any applicable statutes or rules of evidence. The next step is to select equipment and software that demonstrably meet these requirements, prioritizing reliability and accuracy over convenience or cost. A critical component is the implementation of rigorous documentation protocols for all aspects of the recording and handling process, including equipment used, settings, lighting conditions, and any post-production activities. This documentation forms the basis for establishing the chain of custody and demonstrating the integrity of the evidence. Finally, continuous professional development is essential to stay abreast of evolving technologies and legal standards related to digital evidence. Question 2. The assessment process reveals a certified broadcast court reporter encountering a passage of testimony where the shorthand notation appears to deviate from their primary stenographic theory, raising concerns about potential misinterpretation of the spoken word. The reporter must decide how to proceed to ensure the accuracy of the official transcript. Which of the following approaches best upholds the professional and regulatory obligations of a certified broadcast court reporter? Option A. Interpret the notation based on the general context of the testimony, prioritizing a plausible meaning that fits the narrative over strict adherence to stenographic rules. Option B. Rely on personal recollection of similar notations encountered in the past, making an educated guess about the intended meaning to maintain the flow of transcription. Option C. Consult authoritative texts and style guides related to stenographic theory to verify the correct interpretation of the unfamiliar notation, cross-referencing with the audio recording if necessary. Option D. Omit the passage from the transcript, assuming it was an unintelligible utterance or a minor error that does not warrant inclusion. Correct answer is C. Consult authoritative texts and style guides related to stenographic theory to verify the correct interpretation of the unfamiliar notation, cross-referencing with the audio recording if necessary. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge for certified broadcast court reporters, ensuring the accuracy and integrity of the official record when faced with varying shorthand theories and the potential for misinterpretation. This scenario is professionally challenging because the reporter's primary duty is to create a verbatim transcript, and any deviation, even if unintentional, can have significant legal ramifications. The reporter must possess a deep understanding of stenographic theory, not just to write it, but to critically evaluate its application and potential for error. Careful judgment is required to discern between acceptable variations in theory application and outright errors that compromise the record. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the verbatim nature of the record and the reporter's responsibility to accurately capture spoken words. By cross-referencing the unfamiliar shorthand notation with established principles of stenographic theory and consulting authoritative resources, the reporter demonstrates a commitment to accuracy and due diligence. This proactive investigation ensures that any ambiguity is resolved before the transcript is finalized, thereby upholding the integrity of the judicial process. This aligns with the fundamental ethical obligations of a court reporter to be impartial, accurate, and to produce a reliable record. An incorrect approach that relies solely on memory without verification fails to meet the standard of due diligence. This could lead to the introduction of errors into the official record, which is a direct violation of the reporter's duty to accuracy. Ethically, this demonstrates a lack of commitment to the highest professional standards. Another incorrect approach, which involves guessing or making assumptions about the meaning of unfamiliar symbols, is even more egregious. This introduces speculation into the record, undermining its verbatim nature and potentially misleading the court. This constitutes a serious ethical lapse and a failure to adhere to regulatory requirements for accuracy. A third incorrect approach, which involves omitting the disputed portion of the transcript, is also unacceptable. The reporter's role is to record everything spoken, not to censor or omit content based on their own inability to transcribe it. This failure to capture the full record is a direct contravention of their professional mandate. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes accuracy, verification, and adherence to established standards. When encountering unfamiliar shorthand or potential transcription errors, the process should involve 1. Identifying the discrepancy or ambiguity. 2. consulting personal notes and established principles of the reporter's primary shorthand theory. 3. If still unclear, researching authoritative texts or style guides relevant to stenographic theory. 4. If necessary and permissible within the specific court's rules, seeking clarification from the presiding judge or relevant authority, always with the goal of ensuring the verbatim accuracy of the record. Question 3. The evaluation methodology shows that a certified broadcast court reporter is tasked with capturing the audio proceedings of a high-profile trial. The courtroom environment is known for its variable acoustics and potential for background noise from HVAC systems and public gallery movement. The reporter must ensure the integrity and clarity of the audio record for subsequent transcription. Considering the regulatory framework for broadcast court reporting, which of the following equipment and workflow strategies would best ensure compliance and professional best practice? Option A. Use a wireless lavalier microphone clipped to the reporter's clothing, feeding directly into a compact digital recorder with no additional mixing or post-processing. Option B. Utilize a professional-grade digital audio recorder with multiple XLR inputs, connected to an external audio mixer to balance and route signals from dedicated microphones for the judge, witness stand, and prosecution/defense tables. Follow this with post-processing in a digital audio workstation, DAW, for noise reduction and level optimization before archiving. Option C. Employ a single, high-fidelity digital voice recorder placed centrally in the courtroom, relying on its internal microphone to capture all audio and directly save the recording to a cloud storage service. Option D. Connect a portable digital recorder directly to the courtroom's public address system's output, assuming this system already amplifies all spoken words. The correct answer is B. Utilize a professional-grade digital audio recorder with multiple XLR inputs, connected to an external audio mixer to balance and route signals from dedicated microphones for the judge, witness stand, and prosecution/defense tables. Follow this with post-processing in a digital audio workstation, DAW, for noise reduction and level optimization before archiving. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of accurate and complete audio capture in a legal proceeding. The Certified Broadcast Court Reporter, CBCR, is responsible for ensuring that all spoken words are faithfully recorded, which forms the official transcript. The challenge lies in selecting and configuring audio equipment that can reliably capture diverse audio sources in a potentially noisy courtroom environment, while adhering to the specific technical standards and best practices mandated by the regulatory framework for broadcast court reporting. Careful judgment is required to balance technical capability with the need for simplicity, reliability, and compliance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a robust, multi-channel recording strategy that accounts for potential equipment failure and ensures redundancy. Utilizing a high-quality digital audio recorder with multiple inputs, connected to a mixer that can balance and route audio from various microphones, e.g., judge's microphone, witness microphone, attorney microphones, provides a comprehensive and resilient recording. The inclusion of a DAW for post-processing, specifically for noise reduction and level adjustment, is crucial for producing a clear and intelligible record, which is a fundamental ethical and regulatory obligation. This approach directly addresses the need for an accurate and complete record as stipulated by broadcast court reporting standards, ensuring that the audio evidence is preserved in a usable format for transcription and potential review. An incorrect approach that relies solely on a single, consumer-grade digital voice recorder, without a mixer or DAW, fails to meet the professional standards for several reasons. Firstly, it lacks the redundancy necessary to mitigate the risk of a single point of failure. If that one recorder malfunctions, the entire record is lost. Secondly, consumer-grade equipment often lacks the audio fidelity, input options, and robust build quality required for a professional courtroom environment, potentially leading to distorted or incomplete audio. This directly violates the implicit regulatory requirement for reliable and accurate recording. Another incorrect approach that involves using a mixer but bypassing a DAW for post-processing is also professionally deficient. While a mixer can help balance audio levels, it cannot effectively address ambient noise or subtle audio degradation that may occur during recording. The absence of DAW-based noise reduction and level optimization means the raw audio may be difficult to transcribe accurately, compromising the integrity of the official record. This failure to produce a clear and usable audio record is a direct contravention of the professional duty to provide an accurate transcript. Finally, an approach that prioritizes portability over recording quality, such as using a single, low-quality microphone connected directly to a laptop's built-in audio input, is unacceptable. This method is highly susceptible to ambient noise, interference, and insufficient audio capture range. Resulting audio would likely be unintelligible, rendering it useless as an official record and violating the core responsibility of the CBCR. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the specific regulatory requirements for broadcast court reporting, including any mandated equipment specifications or recording standards. Professionals must assess the acoustic environment of the reporting location, identify potential sources of interference or noise, and select equipment that offers the necessary input flexibility, recording quality, and redundancy. A layered approach, utilizing a primary recording device, a reliable mixing system, and post-processing capabilities via a DAW, ensures the highest probability of capturing a clear, complete, and accurate audio record. Regular testing and maintenance of all equipment are also paramount. Question 4. The assessment process reveals that a certified broadcast court reporter, while covering a high-profile trial, is invited to a private social gathering by a key witness in the case. The witness is aware of the reporter's role and has extended the invitation casually, suggesting it would be a good opportunity to get to know each other better outside the courtroom. The reporter has no prior personal relationship with this witness. What is the most ethically sound course of action for the certified broadcast court reporter in this situation? Option A. Attend the gathering, as the invitation is social and not directly related to the case, and the reporter can maintain professional distance. Option B. Inform the witness that a conflict of interest exists and they cannot attend without providing further details. Option C. Accept the invitation but make a conscious effort not to discuss the case, believing that personal discretion will prevent any ethical breaches. Option D. Politely decline the invitation, citing professional obligations to maintain impartiality and confidentiality, and avoid any discussion of the case or personal matters related to it. The correct answer is D. Politely decline the invitation, citing professional obligations to maintain impartiality and confidentiality, and avoid any discussion of the case or personal matters related to it. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a scenario that is professionally challenging due to the inherent tension between a broadcast court reporter's duty to accurately and impartially report proceedings, and the potential for personal relationships to influence or appear to influence that reporting. Maintaining confidentiality regarding sensitive case details learned in a professional capacity, even outside of work, is paramount. Impartiality requires avoiding any action or appearance of bias. Conflicts of interest arise when personal interests could compromise professional judgment. In this situation, the reporter must navigate these ethical considerations to uphold the integrity of the court proceedings and their professional reputation. The correct approach represents best professional practice, because it prioritizes the reporter's ethical obligations above personal convenience or potential social engagement. Adhering to the principles of confidentiality and impartiality, as mandated by the Certified Broadcast Court Reporter Guidelines, ensures that the reporter does not disclose sensitive information learned in their professional capacity and avoids any appearance of impropriety or bias. This proactive stance in declining the invitation, citing professional obligations, demonstrates a commitment to the ethical standards of the profession and safeguards the trust placed in broadcast court reporters. An incorrect approach that involves accepting the invitation and promising to be discreet fails to recognize the appearance of impropriety. Even if the reporter intends to maintain confidentiality, the mere act of attending a social gathering with a party involved in a case creates a perception of bias and a potential conflict of interest. This violates the core principle of impartiality and could undermine public confidence in the fairness of the reporting. Another incorrect approach, which is to attend the event but avoid discussing the case, still presents a significant ethical lapse. While it might seem like a compromise, it fails to address the fundamental issue of potential bias and the appearance of impropriety. The reporter's presence at a social event with a party to a case, regardless of discussion, can be misconstrued as favoritism or an inappropriate relationship, thereby compromising their impartiality. Furthermore, the risk of inadvertently revealing information or being privy to information that could create a future conflict of interest remains high. A further incorrect approach, which is to inform the involved party that they cannot attend due to a conflict of interest but not offer any further explanation, is better than the previous incorrect options but still falls short. While it acknowledges a conflict, it lacks the proactive communication and clear ethical grounding of the best practice. A more robust ethical response involves clearly stating the professional obligation to maintain impartiality and confidentiality, which is what the correct approach achieves. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear assessment of potential conflicts of interest and the appearance of impropriety. Reporters must ask themselves if their personal relationships or activities could reasonably be perceived as influencing their professional judgment or the fairness of their reporting. When in doubt, erring on the side of caution and prioritizing ethical obligations is always the correct course of action. This involves transparent communication about professional boundaries and a commitment to upholding the highest standards of impartiality and confidentiality. Question 5. Consider a scenario where a broadcast court reporter is covering a high-profile case where a large corporation is suing a federal environmental protection agency, challenging the legality of a newly enacted regulation that significantly impacts the corporation's operations. The corporation argues that the agency exceeded its statutory authority and that the regulation is arbitrary and capricious. Which type of law is most central to the proceedings being covered? Option A, criminal law. Option B, administrative law. Option C, civil law. Option D, constitutional law. The correct answer is B, administrative law. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a certified broadcast court reporter due to the need to accurately and impartially report on proceedings that touch upon multiple branches of law. The reporter must understand the fundamental distinctions between criminal, civil, constitutional, and administrative law to correctly categorize and present the information to the public. Mischaracterizing the nature of the legal proceedings could lead to public misunderstanding, misinterpretation of legal processes, and potentially undermine the perceived fairness and integrity of the judicial system. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the reporting is not only factually accurate, but also legally precise. The correct approach involves recognizing that the case involves a challenge to a government agency's regulation, which falls squarely within the purview of administrative law. Administrative law governs the activities of administrative agencies of government, while the underlying dispute might have civil implications, e.g., a company suing the agency. The core issue is the validity of the agency's rulemaking process, or the rule itself, which is an administrative law matter. Reporting this accurately ensures the public understands the specific legal framework under which the dispute is being adjudicated, adhering to the professional standard of precise legal reporting. An incorrect approach would be to solely label the case as civil. While civil law governs disputes between individuals or organizations, and a lawsuit is involved, this overlooks the specific nature of the challenge being brought against a governmental regulatory body. This failure to identify the administrative law component misrepresents the primary legal basis of the proceedings. Another incorrect approach would be to focus exclusively on constitutional law. While constitutional principles might be invoked to challenge the administrative action, e.g., due process, the case is not primarily about interpreting the Constitution itself, but about the actions of an administrative agency. Similarly, labeling it purely criminal would be erroneous, as there are no allegations of criminal conduct being prosecuted. Each of these mischaracterizations represents a failure to adhere to the principle of accurate legal reporting, potentially misleading the audience about the nature of the legal dispute and the relevant legal authorities. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the parties involved and the core issue of the dispute. Presence of a government agency as a party and the challenge to its regulatory action strongly indicates administrative law. The reporter should then consider the specific claims being made. If the claim is about the legality of a regulation or an agency's decision-making process, administrative law is central. If the claim is about a breach of contract or a tort, civil law is central. If the claim is about the interpretation or application of the Constitution, constitutional law is central. If the claim is about a violation of criminal statutes, criminal law is central. In this scenario, the challenge to the agency's regulation makes administrative law the most appropriate and precise classification. Question 6. The investigation demonstrates that a certified broadcast court reporter is covering a high-profile trial with significant public interest. The reporter is utilizing a primary digital audio recorder and a secondary backup recorder. The reporter has also implemented a system for immediate cloud backup of recorded files. Which of the following approaches best mitigates the risk of losing or compromising the official record during this critical proceeding? Option A. Recording the proceedings with both the primary and secondary recorders, but only verifying the integrity of the recordings and the cloud backup after the entire day's proceedings have concluded. Option B. Continuously monitoring the primary and secondary recorders for any audio anomalies or recording interruptions, and performing immediate spot checks of the cloud backup to ensure file integrity and accessibility throughout the entire proceeding. Option C. Utilizing the secondary recorder as a backup, but not actively monitoring its performance during the trial, and only checking the cloud backup at the end of the week. Option D. Relying solely on the primary digital audio recorder, assuming the backup system is sufficient without active verification during the session. Correct answer is B. Continuously monitoring the primary and secondary recorders for any audio anomalies or recording interruptions, and performing immediate spot checks of the cloud backup to ensure file integrity and accessibility throughout the entire proceeding. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the need for timely and accurate transcription of sensitive court proceedings and the potential for technological failures that could compromise the integrity of the record. A certified broadcast court reporter must exercise sound judgment to mitigate these risks while adhering to strict professional standards. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the preservation of the official record through redundancy and immediate verification. This aligns with the core ethical and regulatory obligations of a court reporter to ensure accuracy, completeness, and accessibility of court proceedings. Specifically, it upholds the principle of maintaining a verbatim record, a cornerstone of due process and judicial transparency. The proactive nature of this approach demonstrates a commitment to anticipating and addressing potential issues before they impact the record, thereby safeguarding the integrity of the judicial process. An incorrect approach that relies solely on a single recording device fails to implement adequate risk mitigation strategies. This creates a single point of failure, where a malfunction, power outage, or accidental deletion could result in the loss of critical testimony. Such a failure would violate the reporter's duty to produce an accurate and complete record, potentially leading to appeals, mistrials, or a miscarriage of justice. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the importance of the official record. Another incorrect approach that involves delaying verification of the recording until after the session concludes introduces an unacceptable level of risk. While the reporter may have captured the audio, the opportunity to identify and rectify any recording anomalies or gaps in real time is lost. This increases the likelihood of an incomplete or inaccurate transcript, as subtle audio issues might not be apparent until later review, by which time the witnesses and proceedings are no longer available for clarification. This approach falls short of the professional standard of ensuring the highest possible fidelity of the record. A further incorrect approach that involves relying on a backup system that is not actively monitored or tested during the proceedings is also professionally deficient. While a backup system is a good risk mitigation tool, its effectiveness is nullified if it is not confirmed to be functioning correctly throughout the entire recording period. This can lead to a false sense of security, where a reporter believes they have a safeguard in place, only to discover the backup also failed when it is needed most. This demonstrates a failure to implement a robust and reliable risk management strategy. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a proactive risk assessment. This includes identifying potential points of failure in recording equipment, power sources, and transcription software. Based on this assessment, a reporter should implement redundant recording systems, conduct regular checks of all equipment during proceedings, and have contingency plans for immediate data backup and verification. The ultimate goal is to ensure the creation of an accurate, complete, and reliable official record, thereby upholding the integrity of the judicial process and fulfilling the ethical obligations of a certified broadcast court reporter. Question 7. Upon reviewing the court's order authorizing remote testimony via a video conferencing platform for an upcoming deposition, and after confirming the witness and counsel will be participating remotely, what is the most critical step the certified broadcast court reporter must take to ensure the integrity of the official record? Option A. Rely on the witness and their counsel to confirm their internet connection and audio equipment are functioning adequately, as they are familiar with their own technology. Option B. Inform the court clerk that remote testimony is being utilized and request that they monitor the technical aspects of the connection from the court's end. Option C. Proceed with the deposition as scheduled and address any technical issues that arise in real time, assuming they will be minor and easily resolved by the participants. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive pre-deposition technical test of the video conferencing platform with all participants, verifying audio clarity, video stability, and screen sharing functionality, and establish a clear protocol for addressing any technical disruptions during the proceeding. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive pre-deposition technical test of the video conferencing platform with all participants, verifying audio clarity, video stability, and screen sharing functionality, and establish a clear protocol for addressing any technical disruptions during the proceeding. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between ensuring the integrity of court proceedings and accommodating the practicalities of remote testimony. The certified broadcast court reporter's role is to accurately and impartially record testimony, and the introduction of technology, while beneficial, introduces potential points of failure and ethical considerations. Careful judgment is required to balance technological efficiency with the fundamental requirements of due process and evidentiary standards. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the accuracy and reliability of the record above all else. By proactively identifying and mitigating potential technical issues before the testimony begins, the reporter ensures that the remote testimony platform functions as intended, minimizing the risk of interruptions, audio degradation, or visual distortions that could compromise the record. This aligns with the ethical obligation to produce a verbatim and complete transcript, free from external interference or technological compromise. Adherence to established court rules and guidelines regarding remote proceedings, which often mandate specific technical checks and backup procedures, is also paramount. An incorrect approach that fails to conduct a thorough technical check before testimony begins is professionally unacceptable. This oversight could lead to significant disruptions during the proceeding, such as dropped connections, poor audio quality, or frozen video, all of which directly impact the reporter's ability to capture accurate testimony. This failure constitutes a breach of the duty to provide a reliable record and could lead to mistrials, appeals, or the exclusion of testimony, thereby undermining the judicial process. Another incorrect approach that involves relying solely on the witnesses' or attorney's technical setup without independent verification is also professionally deficient. While collaboration is important, the reporter is ultimately responsible for the quality of the record. Delegating critical technical checks to parties with potentially less expertise or vested interests in the outcome introduces an unacceptable level of risk. This can lead to subtle but critical issues, like background noise interference or inadequate lighting, that a trained reporter would identify and address. A further incorrect approach that involves proceeding with testimony despite known technical glitches, hoping they will resolve themselves, is a serious ethical and professional failing. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the integrity of the court record. The reporter's duty is to ensure a clear and uninterrupted recording, and proceeding under compromised technical conditions directly violates this obligation. It suggests a prioritization of expediency over accuracy, which is antithetical to the role of a court reporter. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a proactive and systematic approach to technology. This includes understanding the capabilities and limitations of the chosen remote testimony platform, conducting pre-session technical checks with all participants, establishing clear communication protocols for technical issues, and having contingency plans in place, such as backup recording devices or alternative connection methods. The reporter must always maintain ultimate responsibility for the integrity of the record, even when utilizing advanced technologies. Question 8. Market research demonstrates that real-time editing by certified broadcast court reporters is crucial for producing an accurate and timely transcript. During a live proceeding, a reporter notices a minor typographical error in their real-time feed that does not alter the meaning of the spoken word. Simultaneously, they realize they missed transcribing a brief, non-substantive interjection from a spectator. Which of the following actions best aligns with regulatory requirements for maintaining the integrity of the official record? Option A. Proceed with the transcription as is, assuming that minor errors and omissions are acceptable in a real-time environment and will be addressed in a final review. Option B. Make a note to review and correct the typographical error and the missed interjection after the proceedings conclude, to avoid any disruption to the real-time transcription flow. Option C. Immediately correct the typographical error in the real-time feed and discreetly add the missed interjection to the transcript at the earliest appropriate pause, ensuring the meaning of the proceedings is preserved. Option D. Immediately correct the typographical error and then pause the proceedings to formally request clarification on the missed interjection to ensure its exact wording is captured. Correct answer is C. Immediately correct the typographical error in the real-time feed and discreetly add the missed interjection to the transcript at the earliest appropriate pause, ensuring the meaning of the proceedings is preserved. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because the Certified Broadcast Court Reporter, CBCR, is tasked with maintaining the integrity and accuracy of the official record in real time, while simultaneously making corrections. The inherent tension lies in balancing the speed required for live transcription with the meticulousness needed for accuracy, all within the strict confines of regulatory compliance. The CBCR must exercise sound judgment to discern between minor typographical errors that can be corrected discreetly and substantive errors that require a more formal correction process, ensuring no alteration of the spoken word's meaning. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it adheres to the fundamental principles of accuracy and completeness as mandated by the rules governing court reporting. Specifically, it aligns with the requirement to produce a verbatim record by making immediate, non-substantive corrections, e.g., typos, misspellings of common words, and noting any substantive corrections or omissions for later review and formal amendment. The CBCR ensures the integrity of the record without introducing bias or altering the testimony. This method respects the legal weight of the transcript as an official document. An incorrect approach that involves making substantive changes to testimony or omitting portions of the record without proper procedure is a direct violation of regulatory and ethical standards. Such actions compromise the verbatim nature of the record, which is a cornerstone of legal proceedings. This can lead to misinterpretations, challenges to the accuracy of the transcript, and potential legal ramifications for the reporter and the parties involved. Furthermore, failing to document substantive corrections or omissions violates the transparency expected of court reporting professionals. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a constant self-assessment of the accuracy of the transcription against the spoken word. When an error is detected, the reporter must first determine its nature. Is it a minor transcription error or a substantive alteration of meaning? For minor errors, immediate correction is permissible if it does not change the meaning. For substantive errors or omissions, the reporter must follow established procedures for noting and correcting the record, which typically involves a formal amendment process, ensuring all parties are aware of the changes. This decision-making process prioritizes accuracy, adherence to rules, and ethical conduct above all else. Question 9. Examination of the data shows that a broadcast court reporter has been provided with extensive video footage from a high-profile trial. The court has issued specific directives regarding the broadcast of certain sensitive witness testimonies and graphic evidence. The reporter's objective is to produce a concise news package for the evening broadcast that accurately reflects the day's proceedings, while adhering to all court mandates. Which of the following approaches best fulfills the reporter's professional obligations? Option A. Select video clips that most effectively convey the emotional impact of the proceedings, ensuring that any omitted context does not fundamentally alter the narrative, and strictly adhere to all court-issued restrictions on broadcast content. Option B. Immediately begin editing the footage to create a compelling broadcast package, focusing on the most impactful moments, and address any potential issues with court restrictions after the broadcast. Option C. Edit together a montage of the most compelling soundbites and visual sequences, focusing on creating a fast-paced and engaging story that captures the essence of the trial, even if some minor details are streamlined. Option D. Prioritize the selection of the most visually striking and dramatic moments from the day's proceedings to maximize viewer engagement, assuming that the overall narrative will remain accurate. The correct answer is A. Select video clips that most effectively convey the emotional impact of the proceedings, ensuring that any omitted context does not fundamentally alter the narrative, and strictly adhere to all court-issued restrictions on broadcast content. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in broadcast court reporting, balancing the need for timely and accurate reporting with the ethical and legal obligations to present information without distortion or undue influence. The pressure to create a compelling narrative for a broadcast audience can conflict with the reporter's duty to remain neutral and objective, especially when dealing with sensitive or potentially prejudicial information. The specific challenge lies in selecting and sequencing video clips to convey the essence of a complex legal proceeding, without misrepresenting the proceedings or violating court orders regarding the dissemination of certain evidence. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to the court's specific orders and the established ethical guidelines for broadcast court reporting. This involves meticulously reviewing the court's directives regarding what can be broadcast, ensuring that any selected video footage accurately reflects the proceedings, and avoiding any editing that could create a misleading impression. The focus is on factual representation and respecting the integrity of the judicial process. This aligns with the core principles of journalistic integrity and the specific regulations governing broadcast coverage of court proceedings, which often emphasize accuracy, fairness, and avoiding prejudice. Incorrect approach is analysis, an approach that focuses solely on creating the most dramatic or engaging narrative, even if it means selectively editing footage to emphasize certain aspects or omitting crucial context, fails to uphold the principles of accuracy and fairness. This can lead to misrepresentation of the facts and potentially prejudice the outcome of the case or the reputation of individuals involved, violating ethical standards and potentially specific court orders. An approach that prioritizes speed of production over thoroughness, leading to the use of unverified or out-of-context clips, risks disseminating inaccurate information. This directly contravenes the fundamental duty of a broadcast court reporter to ensure the accuracy of their reporting. It also ignores the potential for such inaccuracies to have serious legal and ethical repercussions. An approach that ignores or downplays the court's specific instructions regarding the broadcast of certain evidence or testimony demonstrates a disregard for the judicial authority and the legal framework governing court proceedings. This is a direct regulatory and ethical failure, as court orders are binding and must be respected to maintain the integrity of the justice system. Professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must develop a decision-making process that begins with a thorough understanding of all court orders and relevant ethical guidelines. When faced with a conflict between journalistic goals and these obligations, the latter must always take precedence. This involves a critical evaluation of all available footage, a commitment to factual accuracy, and a willingness to seek clarification from court officials if any aspect of the broadcast is ambiguous. The ultimate goal is to inform the public responsibly, without compromising the fairness or integrity of the legal process. Question 10. Performance analysis shows that a certified broadcast court reporter is covering a high-profile trial where a significant portion of the evidence presented involves a copyrighted documentary film. The broadcast station wishes to air segments of this film as part of their coverage of the trial proceedings. What is the most legally sound and ethically responsible course of action for the CBCR and the broadcast station? Option A. Broadcast the segments of the documentary film immediately, assuming that any material presented as evidence in a public court proceeding is automatically cleared for broadcast. Option B. Broadcast only those segments of the documentary film that are brief and appear to be of minimal importance to the overall work. Option C. Consult with legal counsel to determine if the broadcast of the documentary segments constitutes fair use under U.S. copyright law or if licensing is required. Option D. Broadcast the segments of the documentary film after obtaining a simple verbal agreement from the judge to proceed. Correct answer is C. Consult with legal counsel to determine if the broadcast of the documentary segments constitutes fair use under U.S. copyright law or if licensing is required. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge for a certified broadcast court reporter, CBCR, due to the inherent tension between reporting on public proceedings and respecting intellectual property rights. The core difficulty lies in determining the permissible scope of broadcast coverage of copyrighted material presented as evidence in a court case. CBCR must balance their duty to inform the public with legal obligations, specifically concerning copyright law and its exceptions like fair use. Misinterpreting these boundaries can lead to legal repercussions for the broadcaster and the reporter, as well as ethical breaches. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a nuanced understanding of copyright law as it applies to broadcast media in the context of court proceedings. Specifically, it requires recognizing that, while broadcasting court proceedings is generally permissible, the inclusion of copyrighted material within those proceedings is not automatically authorized for broadcast without further consideration. Best professional practice dictates consulting with legal counsel to ascertain whether the specific copyrighted material falls under a fair use exception or requires licensing for broadcast. This approach upholds both the public's right to information and the creator's intellectual property rights, adhering to the principles of responsible journalism and legal compliance. The U.S. Copyright Act, particularly Section 107 concerning fair use, provides a framework for this analysis, considering factors such as the purpose and character of the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount and substantiality of the portion used, and the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. Incorrect approaches analysis. Broadcasting the copyrighted material without any legal review or consideration of fair use constitutes a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach presumes that because the material was presented in court, it is automatically cleared for broadcast, which is a misinterpretation of copyright law. It risks copyright infringement, exposing the broadcaster to potential lawsuits and damages. Another incorrect approach is to assume that all material presented in court is public domain. This is factually incorrect. The presentation of a work in court does not extinguish its copyright protection. This assumption leads to the same risks of infringement as the first incorrect approach. Finally, a CBCR unilaterally deciding that the material constitutes fair use without consulting legal counsel or understanding the specific factors of the fair use doctrine is also a failure. While fair use is a defense to copyright infringement, it is a complex legal determination. A reporter's subjective assessment, without legal guidance, is insufficient to protect the broadcaster from liability. This approach bypasses necessary legal due diligence and relies on an incomplete understanding of a critical legal concept: professional reasoning. Professionals in this field must adopt a proactive and informed approach. When faced with the potential broadcast of copyrighted material, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the copyrighted nature of the material. 2. Understanding the context of its presentation in court. 3. Consulting the relevant U.S. Copyright Act provisions, particularly Section 107 regarding fair use. 4. Seeking legal counsel to interpret the applicability of fair use or to determine licensing requirements. 5. Documenting the decision-making process and any legal advice received. This systematic approach ensures compliance with legal obligations and ethical standards. Question 11. The assessment process reveals a transcript excerpt from a deposition where the reporter has transcribed the following. The witness stated, "I believe it was Tuesday, but I'm not entirely sure about the exact day." Based on the certified broadcast court reporter's mandate for precise punctuation and formatting to ensure clarity and legal accuracy, which of the following represents the most appropriate transcription of this statement, considering standard legal transcription practices for spoken discourse? Option A. The witness stated, "I believe it was Tuesday, but I'm not entirely sure about the exact day." Option B. The witness stated, "I believe it was Tuesday, but I'm not entirely sure about the exact day." Option C. The witness stated, "I believe it was Tuesday, but I'm not entirely sure about the exact day." Option D. The witness stated, "I believe it was Tuesday, but I'm not entirely sure about the exact day." The correct answer is A. The witness stated, "I believe it was Tuesday, but I'm not entirely sure about the exact day." Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge for certified broadcast court reporters: maintaining absolute accuracy and adherence to established punctuation and formatting standards in high-pressure, real-time transcription. The scenario highlights the critical need for a reporter to not only capture spoken words, but also to present them in a legally and professionally sound format, which is paramount for the integrity of the judicial record. The challenge lies in the nuanced application of punctuation rules in spoken discourse, where hesitations, interruptions, and non-standard grammar are prevalent, and in ensuring that the final transcript adheres to the specific formatting guidelines mandated by the court or regulatory body. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it demonstrates a thorough understanding and application of the certified broadcast court reporter's ethical and professional obligations. Adherence to the specific punctuation and formatting guidelines ensures the transcript is clear, unambiguous, and legally admissible. This meticulous attention to detail prevents misinterpretation, protects the accuracy of the record, and upholds the reporter's credibility. It directly aligns with the core responsibility of providing a faithful and accurate representation of the proceedings. Incorrect approaches represent regulatory and ethical failures by demonstrating a lack of diligence or a misunderstanding of professional standards. Omitting necessary punctuation, such as periods at the end of sentences or commas in complex clauses, can lead to misreading and misinterpretation of testimony, thereby compromising the integrity of the record. Similarly, failing to follow mandated formatting, such as incorrect speaker identification or improper handling of exhibits, can create confusion and detract from the professional presentation of the transcript, potentially leading to procedural issues or challenges to its admissibility. These failures indicate a disregard for the precision required in legal transcription and a potential violation of the reporter's duty to produce an accurate and compliant record. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of the court's or regulatory body's specific style guide and punctuation rules before and during transcription. When faced with ambiguity in spoken language, the reporter must apply established rules consistently and err on the side of clarity. If a specific rule is unclear or a situation is highly unusual, the reporter should consult official style guides or, if permissible, seek clarification from the court clerk or a supervisor. The ultimate goal is to produce a transcript that is both a verbatim record and a clear, legally sound document. Question 12. Analysis of a situation where a broadcast journalist obtains a short, impactful video clip from a recently released, highly publicized documentary film to illustrate a breaking news story about the film's subject. The journalist believes the clip is crucial for viewer understanding and that its use is justified as commentary on the news event. The station's legal department is unavailable for immediate consultation due to a holiday. What is the most legally sound and ethically responsible course of action for the broadcast court reporter? Option A. Download the clip from a publicly accessible social media platform where it was shared by fans of the documentary, assuming public sharing implies permission for reuse. Option B. Use the clip without further consideration, assuming that any use within a news context is permissible under fair use principles. Option C. Refrain from using the clip and instead describe the content of the clip verbally to the audience, seeking alternative visual elements for the report. Option D. Proceed with using the clip, documenting the intended purpose as news commentary and the clip's necessity for viewer comprehension, while making a note to seek legal review post-broadcast. The correct answer is D. Proceed with using the clip, documenting the intended purpose as news commentary and the clip's necessity for viewer comprehension, while making a note to seek legal review post-broadcast. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for broadcast journalists, balancing the need to report on current events with the legal and ethical obligations surrounding the use of copyrighted material. The pressure to be first with a story, coupled with the ease of digital sharing, can lead to unintentional copyright infringement. A broadcast court reporter must possess a keen understanding of copyright law and fair use principles to navigate these situations without jeopardizing the station's legal standing or reputation. The challenge lies in discerning when the use of a clip is transformative and serves a clear journalistic purpose versus when it constitutes unauthorized appropriation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach demonstrates a thorough understanding of U.S. copyright law, specifically the doctrine of fair use as codified in 17 U.S. Code Section 107. This approach prioritizes obtaining permission or seeking a license for the use of the copyrighted material. When direct permission is not feasible or timely, it then considers whether the use would qualify as fair use. This involves a careful evaluation of the four statutory factors: the purpose and character of the use, e.g., for news reporting, commentary, criticism, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole, and the effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. By seeking legal counsel and conducting this multi-factor analysis, the reporter acts with due diligence, minimizing legal risk and adhering to ethical broadcasting standards. This proactive and informed approach is best professional practice, safeguarding the station from potential litigation and upholding journalistic integrity. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach fails to consider the transformative nature of the use or the potential market impact, instead relying solely on the fact that the material is being used for news reporting. This overlooks the nuances of fair use, which is not an automatic exemption for any use in news. Another incorrect approach assumes that because the material is publicly available online, it is free to use, ignoring the fact that online availability does not negate copyright protection. This demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of intellectual property rights. A third incorrect approach prioritizes speed over legal compliance, using the clip without any consideration for copyright or fair use, thereby exposing the station to significant legal liability and potential damages. This approach prioritizes expediency at the expense of legal and ethical responsibility. Professional reasoning. When faced with the use of potentially copyrighted material in a broadcast, a professional broadcast court reporter should follow a structured decision-making process. First, identify the source of the material and determine if it is protected by copyright. Second, explore options for obtaining permission or a license. If direct permission is not immediately obtainable, conduct a thorough fair use analysis, carefully weighing all four statutory factors. Consult with legal counsel if there is any uncertainty. Document all steps taken in the decision-making process. This systematic approach ensures that journalistic goals are met while respecting intellectual property rights and adhering to regulatory requirements. Question 13. Quality control measures reveal a recurring pattern of minor inaccuracies and delays in the transcription of specific legal jargon and commonly used phrases during high-volume court sessions. To address this, what is the most effective and compliant strategy for creating and implementing briefs for frequently used words and phrases? Option A. Rely primarily on advanced speech recognition software to automatically generate abbreviations, with minimal human oversight for review. Option B. Implement a system where reporters can verbally agree on abbreviations for specific cases as they arise, without a formal written brief. Option C. Develop a comprehensive, standardized brief of commonly used words and phrases, ensuring all reporters are trained on its consistent application and regularly update it based on feedback and new terminology. Option D. Encourage individual reporters to create their own personal abbreviation lists for words and phrases they frequently encounter, allowing for maximum personal efficiency. The correct answer is C. Develop a comprehensive, standardized brief of commonly used words and phrases, ensuring all reporters are trained on its consistent application and regularly update it based on feedback and new terminology. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in maintaining accuracy and efficiency in real-time transcription, particularly when dealing with a high volume of legal proceedings. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for speed with the absolute requirement for verbatim accuracy, as mandated by the Certified Broadcast Court Reporter standards. The use of abbreviations and shortcuts, while beneficial for speed, introduces a significant risk of misinterpretation or inconsistent application, which can compromise the integrity of the official record. Careful judgment is required to implement a system that is both efficient and error-free. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes accuracy and consistency through a structured, pre-approved system. By developing a comprehensive brief of frequently used words and phrases and ensuring all reporters adhere to this standardized list, the risk of individual interpretation errors is minimized. This systematic approach aligns with the ethical obligation of a certified broadcast court reporter to produce an accurate and reliable record. Furthermore, it fosters team consistency, ensuring that the same terms are transcribed identically across different reporters and different proceedings, which is crucial for legal clarity and future reference. This proactive measure directly addresses the quality control findings by establishing a clear, enforceable standard. An incorrect approach that relies on ad hoc or individually developed abbreviations fails to meet professional standards. This introduces a significant risk of inconsistency, where the same word or phrase might be abbreviated differently by different reporters, or even by the same reporter at different times. This lack of standardization directly violates the principle of producing an accurate and verbatim record. Ethically, it compromises the integrity of the court record, potentially leading to disputes or misinterpretations in legal proceedings. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on automated transcription software without a robust human review and a standardized abbreviation system, also presents regulatory and ethical failures. While technology can aid efficiency, it cannot guarantee the verbatim accuracy required in legal settings, and without a defined abbreviation strategy, the output remains prone to errors and inconsistencies, failing to meet the certified broadcast court reporter's duty of care. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a proactive assessment of common transcription challenges. This includes identifying recurring words, phrases, and legal terminology that are prone to transcription errors or delays. The next step is to develop a standardized, comprehensive, and easily accessible brief of these items, ensuring it is reviewed and approved by a team or supervisor to guarantee consistency. Training all reporters on the proper use of this brief is paramount. Regular quality control checks and feedback mechanisms should be implemented to identify any deviations or areas for improvement in the brief or its application. This iterative process ensures continuous enhancement of accuracy and efficiency while upholding the highest professional and regulatory standards. Question 14. The evaluation methodology shows that a certified broadcast court reporter is tasked with providing real-time closed captions for a live televised congressional hearing. The reporter utilizes advanced speech-to-text software for initial transcription, which is then immediately broadcast. Following the live broadcast, the reporter is expected to review and edit the captions for accuracy and formatting. Considering the regulatory framework governing closed captioning in the United States, which of the following approaches best aligns with professional best practices and legal obligations? Option A. The reporter disables the speech-to-text software during the live broadcast and manually transcribes the entire hearing after it concludes, then formats these captions for broadcast. Option B. The reporter relies solely on the raw output from the speech-to-text software during the live broadcast, with no subsequent editing or review, assuming the technology is sufficiently accurate for immediate dissemination. Option C. The reporter prioritizes speed during the post-broadcast editing phase, making only superficial corrections to obvious errors and immediately finalizing the captions for archival purposes. Option D. The reporter engages in a comprehensive post-broadcast editing process, meticulously reviewing the real-time captions for accuracy, correcting all transcription errors, ensuring proper punctuation and grammar, and formatting the captions according to FCC guidelines for accessibility and readability. The correct answer is B. The reporter relies solely on the raw output from the speech-to-text software during the live broadcast, with no subsequent editing or review, assuming the technology is sufficiently accurate for immediate dissemination. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the speed required for real-time captioning and the accuracy demanded by regulatory standards and ethical obligations. The certified broadcast court reporter must balance the immediate need to transcribe spoken words with the subsequent responsibility of ensuring those captions are accurate, grammatically correct, and properly formatted for accessibility. The pressure to keep pace with live proceedings, coupled with the potential for errors in speech recognition or human transcription, necessitates a robust editing and formatting process. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes accuracy and adherence to established guidelines for closed captioning. This involves a multi-stage process: initial real-time captioning, followed by a thorough review and editing phase. This review ensures that all spoken content is captured, corrected for any transcription errors, punctuated appropriately, and formatted according to the technical specifications required by broadcast standards and accessibility regulations. This meticulous editing process directly supports the FCC's mandate for accurate and accessible closed captions, fulfilling the legal and ethical duty to provide information to all viewers, including those who are deaf or hard of hearing. An incorrect approach that relies solely on raw, unedited real-time output fails to meet regulatory requirements. This would likely result in captions that are riddled with errors, misinterpretations, and lack of proper punctuation, rendering them difficult to understand and potentially misleading. Such an approach violates the spirit and letter of FCC regulations, which implicitly require captions to be accurate and comprehensible. Another incorrect approach might involve prioritizing speed over accuracy in the editing phase, leading to rushed corrections that still contain significant errors. This also falls short of the professional standard and regulatory expectation for quality captioning. A further incorrect approach could be to ignore specific formatting requirements, such as speaker identification or the use of appropriate captioning tags, which are crucial for clarity and accessibility, thereby failing to meet the comprehensive requirements of broadcast standards. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes a commitment to accuracy and compliance. This involves understanding the specific regulatory requirements of the jurisdiction. In this case, U.S. FCC regulations for broadcast captioning, implementing a rigorous quality control process that includes both real-time captioning and post-captioning editing, and utilizing appropriate tools and techniques for efficient and accurate caption generation and formatting. The decision-making process should always weigh the potential impact of inaccurate or inaccessible captions on the audience and the broadcaster's legal standing. Question 15. Research into live streaming technologies for court proceedings reveals a scenario where a certified broadcast court reporter is broadcasting a live audio feed of a trial using a platform that utilizes adaptive bitrate encoding. Midway through a critical witness testimony, the reporter notices a significant degradation in audio quality on their monitoring equipment, indicating potential packet loss or encoding issues that are causing intermittent audio dropouts and distortion for the remote viewers. The reporter has a secondary, independent audio recording device that is functioning perfectly. What is the most ethically and professionally sound course of action for the certified broadcast court reporter in this situation? Option A. Mute the live stream feed for a few minutes to allow the encoding software to buffer and potentially correct the audio issues, then resume broadcasting without informing the court. Option B. Continue the live stream, attempting to adjust encoding parameters on the fly to mitigate the audio issues, hoping the problem resolves itself before it significantly impacts the record. Option C. Immediately cease the live stream and inform the presiding judge of the audio degradation and the potential impact on the remote audience's ability to accurately receive the proceedings. Option D. Inform the remote viewers via a text overlay on the stream that there are technical difficulties, but continue broadcasting the degraded audio to avoid interrupting the testimony. The correct answer is C. Immediately cease the live stream and inform the presiding judge of the audio degradation and the potential impact on the remote audience's ability to accurately receive the proceedings. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between the immediate need to broadcast and the potential for technical issues to compromise the integrity of the court record. The certified broadcast court reporter, CBCR, must balance the public's right to access information with the court's mandate for accuracy and completeness. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any deviation from standard protocols does not inadvertently lead to a loss of critical information or introduce inaccuracies into the official record. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the integrity of the court record above all else. By immediately ceasing the live stream and informing the court, the reporter adheres to the fundamental ethical obligation to ensure the accuracy and completeness of the record. This action aligns with the core principles of court reporting, which demand meticulous attention to detail and the preservation of every word spoken. The CBCR responsibility extends beyond simply capturing audio. It includes ensuring the reliability of the means by which that audio is disseminated. An incorrect approach that involves continuing the stream despite the audio degradation is professionally unacceptable. This would violate the ethical duty to provide an accurate record, as the degraded audio could lead to misinterpretations or omissions that would be reflected in any subsequent transcript or broadcast. Furthermore, it could be seen as a failure to uphold the standards of the broadcasting profession, potentially undermining public trust in the court system's transparency. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to fix the issue without informing the court, is also professionally unsound. It bypasses the established chain of command and deprives the court of the opportunity to make informed decisions about the broadcast. It also risks further compounding the problem or creating new issues without proper oversight, potentially jeopardizing the integrity of the entire broadcast. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a rapid assessment of the situation, prioritizing the integrity of the court record. The reporter should immediately identify the nature and severity of the technical issue. If the issue directly impacts the accuracy or completeness of the audio being captured for the record, the primary action should be to halt the problematic process. Transparency with the court is paramount. Any disruption or potential compromise to the record must be immediately communicated to the presiding judge or court official. This allows the court to direct the reporter on how to proceed, whether that involves pausing the broadcast, attempting a fix under supervision, or other remedial actions. The reporter's role is to facilitate accurate record-keeping and dissemination, not to independently manage technical crises that could affect the record's integrity. Question 16. System analysis indicates that during a live broadcast of a court proceeding, a critical witness is being cross-examined by two attorneys who are frequently interjecting and speaking over each other. The certified broadcast court reporter is struggling to definitively attribute specific statements to each attorney due to the rapid pace and overlapping dialogue. Which of the following represents the most appropriate professional approach to ensure accurate speaker identification in this challenging scenario? Option A. Employ a systematic approach of actively listening for distinct vocal inflections and patterns of speech for each attorney, cross-referencing with any available visual cues of who is speaking, and if necessary, discreetly signaling for clarification to ensure accurate attribution before the next speaker begins. Option B. Pause the broadcast momentarily to request that the attorney speak one at a time to allow for clear identification and transcription, even if this disrupts the flow of the proceedings. Option C. Prioritize immediate transcription of all spoken words, assigning generic labels like Attorney 1 and Attorney 2 when unsure, with the intention of clarifying identities later through post-production review. Option D. Focus primarily on the attorney who is currently making the most forceful or prominent argument, assuming they are the speaker, and transcribe their statements accordingly, as this is likely the most important contribution to the record. The correct answer is C. Prioritize immediate transcription of all spoken words, assigning generic labels like Attorney 1 and Attorney 2 when unsure, with the intention of clarifying identities later through post-production review. Explanation. This scenario presents a common implementation challenge for certified broadcast court reporters, ensuring absolute accuracy in speaker identification within a live broadcast environment where multiple individuals may speak simultaneously or with overlapping dialogue. The professional challenge lies in the critical need for precise attribution, as misidentification can lead to significant factual inaccuracies, legal ramifications, and a breach of trust with the audience and the court. The reporter's role demands not only verbatim transcription, but also the clear and unambiguous identification of who is speaking, which is paramount for the integrity of the record. The correct approach emphasizes a multi-layered verification process that prioritizes accuracy over speed. This involves actively listening for distinct vocal characteristics, cross-referencing with visual cues, if available and permissible, and employing a system of confirmation, even if it requires a brief pause or a clarifying question. This method aligns with the core ethical and regulatory obligations of a court reporter, which mandate the creation of a true and accurate record. The CISI, Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment Guidelines, while not directly applicable to court reporting, emphasize the importance of accuracy and integrity in all reporting functions, a principle that extends to broadcast court reporting. The regulatory framework for broadcast court reporting, which is implicitly governed by standards of accuracy and truthfulness expected in legal proceedings, demands this level of diligence. Incorrect approaches fail to meet these stringent standards. One incorrect approach might involve relying solely on the most recent visual cue or assuming speaker identity based on proximity to a microphone, without active auditory confirmation. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it introduces a high probability of error, compromising the accuracy of the broadcast record. It violates the implicit duty to ensure a true and faithful representation of the proceedings. Another incorrect approach could be to prioritize speed and simply assign a generic label like Speaker 1 or Speaker 2 when unsure, without any attempt at definitive identification. This is a failure to meet the professional standard of identifying speakers accurately and clearly, which is a fundamental requirement for a court reporter. It leaves ambiguity in the record, which is unacceptable in a legal context. A third incorrect approach might be to guess the speaker's identity based on perceived authority or prominence in the room, rather than objective identification. This introduces bias and speculation, directly contravening the requirement for an impartial and accurate record. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a constant internal checklist. Is the speaker clearly identifiable through their voice? Are there any visual cues that corroborate the auditory identification? If there is any doubt, what is the most reliable method to confirm identity without disrupting the proceedings unduly? This might involve a subtle nod to a colleague, a quick glance at a visual identifier, or, in extreme cases, a discreet and polite request for clarification. The ultimate goal is to achieve the highest possible degree of accuracy, recognizing that the integrity of the broadcast record is paramount. Question 17. The control framework reveals a news producer instructing a junior reporter to prepare a segment on a recent city council meeting. The producer specifies that the segment should include the reporter's narration over footage of council members speaking, interspersed with shots of the council chambers and relevant documents. The producer also requests that the reporter include a short, self-contained story with interviews and illustrative footage. The reporter is unsure how to best interpret these instructions using standard broadcast terminology. Which of the following best describes the producer's instructions and the reporter's task? Option A. The producer is asking for a voiceover segment that includes B-roll of the reporter speaking, with footage of council members and documents and a short, illustrative B-roll sequence. Option B. The producer is asking for a package that uses only B-roll footage, with voiceover narration from an anchor and a separate, self-contained voiceover segment. Option C. The producer is asking for a voiceover segment that includes B-roll of the council chambers and documents, with footage of council members speaking, and a separate, self-contained package. Option D. The producer is asking for a package that incorporates voiceover narration over footage of council members, with B-roll of the chambers and documents, and a separate, self-contained news story. The correct answer is D. The producer is asking for a package that incorporates voiceover narration over footage of council members, with B-roll of the chambers and documents, and a separate, self-contained news story. Explanation. The control framework reveals a scenario where a broadcast journalist is tasked with producing a news segment under tight deadlines. The challenge lies in accurately and efficiently conveying information, while adhering to broadcast standards and terminology. Misunderstanding or misusing terms like B-roll, package, and voiceover can lead to factual inaccuracies, production errors, and a failure to meet journalistic integrity standards, potentially impacting viewer comprehension and trust. The correct approach involves a clear understanding of each term's function within broadcast news production. A package is a self-contained news story, typically including reporter narration, interviews, and B-roll. B-roll refers to supplementary footage used to illustrate the story being narrated, providing visual context without direct reporter presence. A voiceover is when a reporter's narration is played over video footage, often used when the reporter is not on camera. The journalist must correctly identify and utilize these elements to construct a coherent and visually engaging news segment that accurately reflects the story's content and adheres to the established format for broadcast news. This demonstrates professional competence in news production and adherence to industry best practices. An incorrect approach would be to confuse B-roll with the primary narrative footage or to use voiceover interchangeably with a reporter's on-camera introduction. For instance, presenting raw, unedited footage as B-roll without it serving a specific illustrative purpose would be a misapplication of the term. Similarly, assuming a voiceover can replace the entire structure of a package would fundamentally misunderstand the distinct roles of these production elements. Such errors can lead to disjointed storytelling, visual redundancy, and a failure to meet the expected professional standards of broadcast journalism, potentially violating internal editorial guidelines or even broader journalistic ethics concerning clarity and accuracy. Professionals should approach such situations by first ensuring a solid grasp of fundamental broadcast terminology. When in doubt, consulting style guides, experienced colleagues, or newsroom supervisors is crucial. The decision-making process should prioritize clarity, accuracy, and efficiency in storytelling, ensuring that each production element serves its intended purpose within the overall narrative structure of the news segment. Question 18. Which approach would be most effective in ensuring the integrity and quality of video recordings for broadcast court reporting, considering potential technical challenges with cameras, lighting, and video editing software? Option A. Focusing exclusively on selecting video editing software known for its user-friendliness, with less emphasis on the technical specifications of the recording equipment. Option B. Prioritizing the acquisition of the most technologically advanced camera available, assuming it will compensate for any deficiencies in lighting or editing capabilities. Option C. Relying on the assumption that standard courtroom lighting is sufficient and that any video editing can be performed with basic, readily available software. Option D. Conducting a thorough risk assessment that evaluates the capabilities and potential failure points of cameras, lighting, and video editing software in conjunction with the specific demands of the courtroom environment. The correct answer is D. Conducting a thorough risk assessment that evaluates the capabilities and potential failure points of cameras, lighting, and video editing software in conjunction with the specific demands of the courtroom environment. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between capturing accurate and complete visual evidence for broadcast court reporting and the potential for technical limitations or user error to compromise that evidence. The certified broadcast court reporter's role demands meticulous attention to detail, adherence to established protocols, and an understanding of how equipment functions and can fail. The core challenge lies in ensuring that the chosen video recording equipment and its setup are not only capable of meeting the demands of a courtroom environment, but also comply with any relevant broadcasting standards or court rules regarding evidence integrity and presentation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive, risk-based assessment of all critical video recording components. This involves proactively identifying potential failure points in cameras, lighting, and editing software before they impact a broadcast. By considering factors like camera resolution, frame rate, low light performance, lighting consistency, and the reliability and functionality of editing software, the reporter ensures that the equipment is fit for purpose and will produce clear, uncompromised footage. This proactive stance aligns with the ethical obligation to provide accurate and reliable reporting, minimizing the risk of evidentiary disputes or challenges due to technical deficiencies. It also implicitly addresses the need to understand and comply with any court-specific or broadcast-related technical specifications that might exist, ensuring the integrity of the record. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the most advanced camera technology without considering lighting or editing software would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from an incomplete risk assessment. While a high-end camera might capture sharp images, inadequate lighting could render the footage unusable or distorted, failing to meet the standard of clear visual evidence. Similarly, neglecting the editing software could lead to issues with file compatibility, corruption, or an inability to perform necessary post-production tasks, thereby compromising the integrity of the final broadcast. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes only the ease of use of editing software over the quality of the camera and lighting would also be a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Ease of use is a secondary concern when the primary objective is to capture accurate and admissible visual evidence. If the camera and lighting are insufficient, even the most user-friendly software cannot salvage poor quality input. This demonstrates a misunderstanding of the foundational requirements for broadcast court reporting, where the quality of the raw capture is paramount. A professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a thorough understanding of the specific requirements of the court or broadcast environment. This includes researching any applicable rules or guidelines regarding video evidence. Next, a comprehensive risk assessment of all equipment, cameras, lighting, and editing software should be conducted, identifying potential failure points and their impact. This assessment should inform the selection of equipment and the development of operational protocols. Finally, ongoing testing and validation of the equipment and processes are crucial to ensure continued compliance and reliability. Question 19. The review process indicates that a live broadcast from a protest event, where tensions are escalating and crowd noise is significant, has raised concerns about potential FCC violations. The reporter on the scene is attempting to convey the unfolding events accurately and immediately. What is the most appropriate course of action to ensure compliance with FCC broadcast standards while still informing the public? Option A. Implement a brief but sufficient broadcast delay to allow for content review before it goes live to air. Option B. Proceed with the live broadcast without interruption, trusting the reporter's judgment to avoid any inappropriate content. Option C. Rely on the reporter to self-censor and make on-the-spot decisions about what is acceptable for broadcast, given the urgency. Option D. Censor any potentially controversial or loud crowd noises, even if they are integral to the news event, to prevent any perceived indecency. The correct answer is A. Implement a brief but sufficient broadcast delay to allow for content review before it goes live to air. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires a broadcast journalist to balance the public's right to know with the FCC's regulations concerning indecency and obscenity, specifically in the context of live reporting. The immediate need to convey critical information during a breaking news event clashes with the potential for unforeseen and inappropriate content to be broadcast. Careful judgment is required to ensure compliance while fulfilling the journalistic duty of informing the public. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to FCC regulations by implementing a delay mechanism. This proactive measure allows for the screening of content before it reaches the public airwaves, thereby mitigating the risk of broadcasting indecency or obscenity. This aligns with the FCC's mandate to protect the public from such material and upholds the station's responsibility to operate within legal broadcasting parameters. It demonstrates a commitment to both journalistic integrity and regulatory compliance. An incorrect approach that proceeds with live, unedited reporting without any safeguards fails to adequately consider FCC regulations. This could lead to the unintentional broadcast of indecency or obscenity, resulting in potential FCC fines, license revocation, and significant damage to the station's reputation. Another incorrect approach, which involves censoring potentially newsworthy but borderline content, sacrifices journalistic duty for overzealous caution, potentially depriving the public of important information and undermining the role of broadcast journalism. A third incorrect approach, relying solely on the reporter's discretion in the heat of a live event, is insufficient because the pressure of breaking news can impair judgment, making it difficult to consistently apply FCC standards. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the specific FCC regulations applicable to the content and context. This involves assessing the potential for indecency or obscenity, considering the time of day and the target audience. Next, they should evaluate available technical safeguards, such as broadcast delays, and determine their feasibility and effectiveness. Finally, they must weigh the journalistic imperative to inform against the legal and ethical obligations to comply with broadcast standards, always erring on the side of caution when in doubt, particularly with live broadcasts. Question 20. The analysis reveals that during a critical phase of a direct examination, the witness begins to provide a lengthy and complex answer. The opposing counsel immediately stands and states, "Objection, Your Honor," leading. The judge responds, "Sustained." As the certified broadcast court reporter, what is the most appropriate action to ensure the integrity of the official record? Option A. Record the objection and ruling, then offer a summary of the witness's intended answer to expedite the process. Option B. Immediately stop recording and ask the witness to repeat their answer more concisely, as the objection was sustained. Option C. Record the objection, the judge's ruling, and then wait for the witness to continue their answer, transcribing it verbatim. Option D. Record the objection and ruling, then omit the witness's entire answer from the transcript, assuming it was deemed inadmissible. The correct answer is C. Record the objection, the judge's ruling, and then wait for the witness to continue their answer, transcribing it verbatim. Explanation. The analysis reveals a scenario where a court reporter, acting as a certified broadcast court reporter, is tasked with accurately transcribing testimony during a high-profile trial. The challenge lies in the dynamic nature of courtroom proceedings, where rapid-fire questioning, unexpected objections, and the need for precise verbatim recording demand exceptional focus and adherence to established procedures. The reporter must not only capture every word, but also understand the procedural context to ensure the transcript is legally sound and usable. The correct approach involves meticulously recording the direct examination, including any objections and the judge's rulings, without interjecting or attempting to interpret the testimony. This aligns with the fundamental duty of a court reporter to provide an impartial and accurate record of all proceedings as they occur. The certified broadcast court reporter's role is to be a neutral observer and recorder, adhering strictly to the rules of evidence and procedure governing the courtroom. This ensures the integrity of the judicial process and the reliability of the official transcript. An incorrect approach would be to anticipate the direction of the questioning and begin transcribing potential answers before they are fully uttered, or to omit portions of testimony deemed irrelevant by the reporter. This constitutes a failure to provide a verbatim record, a core ethical and regulatory requirement. Another incorrect approach would be to offer commentary or clarification on the testimony, even if well-intentioned, as this injects the reporter's subjective interpretation into the official record, compromising its objectivity. Furthermore, failing to accurately record objections and rulings, or attempting to clean up the testimony by removing hesitations or stutters, violates the mandate for a complete and accurate verbatim transcript. These actions undermine the legal standing of the transcript and expose the reporter to disciplinary action for professional misconduct. The professional decision-making process in such situations requires a commitment to impartiality, accuracy, and strict adherence to procedural rules. A certified broadcast court reporter must maintain a high level of concentration, understand the nuances of legal objections and rulings, and prioritize the verbatim recording of all spoken words and procedural events. When in doubt about a specific word or phrase, the reporter should err on the side of caution and record it as heard, or request clarification from the court if the situation permits without disrupting proceedings. The ultimate goal is to produce a transcript that is a faithful and complete representation of the courtroom record.